Total chaos. They've been in chaos for months, and that's why they couldn't get their act together, and we're up to these cliffs where people lose unemployment benefits, may be kicked out of their homes, don't have money to feed their folks, their kids. It's just a disgrace what their bill does.
Is the country getting back to normal without it? No chance whatsoever. And so as the majority leader, I can tell you no bill will pass the Senate that doesn't have the liability protection in it.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to today's Startup Junkie and another State of Play, right? State of Play is a portion of the Startup Junkie where we share with you what's going on with, stimulus, the government, the economy, that affects not only the pocketbooks of business owners, but the pocketbooks of you as a hard-working American. Hard-working in the sense that even if you've been furloughed, even if you've been laid off and you're trying to collect unemployment, we definitely have something in this show for you today. And of course, if you don't know who I am, let me introduce myself, okay? I'm your host of the Startup Junkie, AJ, and we multi-stream across Facebook, YouTube, Periscope / Twitter, and we come to you Monday through Friday, providing live streams and videos every single freaking day, as well as the Startup Junkie podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, as well as iHeartMedia. So, the state of play today is a portion of the show that we have another portion within that show, and it's called Head to Head. In that segment, that is. It's called Head to Head. And in case you missed the opener, I'm just going to play it for you one more time. So I'm going to give you some context. And here is the state of play for today. It's a head to head between Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Minority Leader in the House, Chuck Schumer. Check it out.
Republicans are, as you say, in total chaos. They've been in chaos for months, and that's why they couldn't get their act together, and we're up to these cliffs where people lose unemployment benefits, may be kicked out of their homes, don't have money to feed their folks, their kids. It's just a disgrace what their bill does.
Is the country getting back to normal without it? No chance whatsoever. And so as the majority leader, I can tell you no bill will pass the Senate that doesn't have the liability protection in it.
Okay, so what does that mean? That simply means that today we're going to talk about the HEROS Act, which was presented in the Senate, versus the HEROS Act. And we're going to watch interview clips that not only explain to you what each one of these acts mean, which, by the way, in case you've been not keeping up, let me share this with you, okay? The HEROS Act was passed back on May 15th by the House, and that is for $3.2 trillion. That covers everything from contact tracing, for providing funding to the states, to help with testing, to help with unemployment. That includes funds for PPP. That includes monies for everything, right? That we can possibly think of to get this economy back on track, right? And that was passed by Nancy Pelosi in the House and Chuck Schumer. Now, presented the HEROS Act in the Senate by Mitch McConnell, Majority Leader of the Republicans. And I am going to play for you short interviews from each of those individuals as they go head to head. And then I'm going to give you my assessment of it. I'm going to tell you the overall arching theme of what you can expect based on where each side is on, where they are in terms of negotiations. In other words, what the Senate really wants, what the red line is for Mitch McConnell, what the the Democrats want and what the red line is for them. And so let's just get into this this head-to-head matchup as I play for you these separate interviews. And don't worry, these interviews are not long, but they're very telling. So here is Chuck Schumer on All In with Chris Hayes yesterday. So check it out.
Joining me now, one of the main players in those negotiations, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. It's great to have you, Senator.
Hi, Chris.
I believe you were in the negotiations this afternoon, which I think was the first round. Can you just give us an update of where things stand?
Yeah, well, first, the Republicans are, as you say, in total chaos. They've been in chaos for months, and that's why they couldn't get their act together, and we're up to these cliffs where people lose unemployment benefits, may be kicked out of their homes, don't have money to feed their folks, their kids. It's just a disgrace what their bill does. There are so many needs here, and here's the fundamental problem, Chris. This is the greatest economic crisis we've had in 75 years since the Depression, the greatest health crisis in 100 years. You need the government to help. But our Republican friends on the hard right say only the private sector should be involved, and the private sector, even on its own admission, can't solve this. So they end up with this horrible bill that favors corporate interests. How about this? They want to give a break, a tax break for the 3 martini lunch, but no more money for food stamps and people to feed their folks. They want a $30 billion cushion for the defense industry and no money, no cushion for people who are going to lose their homes. They put in there this boondoggle for President Trump, the $2 billion, so that he doesn't have to compete next to another hotel, and tell workers they should take a 30% pay cut even when they've lost, even when they've lost their job through no fault of their own. This is a giveaway to corporate interests. We Democrats are standing firm. We know the needs are real. We know the needs are deep. We know working people need help, and we are going to fight for the very strong and very bold bill that the House passed called the HEROS Act.
Okay, so again, the House passed the HEROS Act, $3.2 trillion. Some people, definitely on the right, the Republicans think that it's like way too much, especially considering there is still residuals left over from CARES Act 1. All right, so let's see exactly what Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has to say and what he said in his interview yesterday on CNBC. All right, so let's just check it out and see what Mitch McConnell has to say. Check it out.
Leader McConnell, tell us where things stand right now and when would be realistic to expect a bipartisan package to pass both chambers.
Well, it's hard to predict when we finally get together, but what we laid out yesterday, we meaning the Senate Republican majority, is how we would deal with this phase of our overall rescue effort. Remember, we've already passed about $3 trillion worth of assistance. That's added to the national debt. We now have a debt the size of our economy for the first time since World War II. In my view, after the last bill passed in the March-April period, we needed to push the pause button, see how what we had already passed worked out, and then decide where to go from there. Well, we're here in July. We have advocated $1 trillion, 1/3 of what the House passed a couple of months ago, highly targeted toward a few things that we think are absolutely critical to get the country back on its feet. Number one, liability protection. No one should be successfully sued unless they were grossly negligent or engaged in intentional harm who was dealing with this brand new disease. That's doctors, hospitals, nurses, universities, public schools. Everyone involved in trying to work our way through that ought not to be subject to an epidemic of lawsuits on top of it. Beyond that, the theme of our package yesterday is kids in school, jobs, and health care.
Leader McConnell, you mentioned yesterday that the economy remains fragile. When you decided to press the pause button, the virus was on the decline. That is not the case now. And the Congressional Budget Office found that the $600 weekly unemployment supplement was able to keep household spending at pre-pandemic levels. Can the economy afford for that to go away? And why worry about the deficit and the debt now when there is still a public health crisis, potentially even worse than there was in March?
Well, unemployment is extremely important, but the way the previous bill was crafted, 5 out of 6 workers are actually making more staying at home than going back to work. And remember, all of these folks are going to get another $1,200 in direct payment under the HEROS Act that we announced yesterday. So all we're saying is we don't want to make it more profitable to stay home than to go back to work. That's not what unemployment insurance is about. We think unemployment is extremely important in a time of high unemployment. We want to continue that at the traditional level and back the states up so they can afford to continue it for a necessarily longer period of time. But it also involves the principle of not paying your neighbor more to stay home than you're making by going back to work.
Part of the biggest divide between the Republicans and Democrats right now is on state and local government funding. Where is the fertile ground for compromise between $0, as Republicans have proposed, and $1 trillion, as the Democrats have passed?
Yeah, actually, we haven't proposed $0. We proposed $105 billion for education, which is $5 billion more than the House passed bill a couple of months ago. Education is either the first item or the second.
The apples to apples is
let me answer. The 2 biggest items in every state budget are education and Medicaid. So the $105 billion that we're advocating for education is direct assistance to states and localities with either the top or the second most expensive item in every one of their budgets.
Okay, so now, under normal circumstances, I would give each person in a head-to-head versus kind of like what's going on YouTube. All the different celebrity entertainers are competing against each other. But in this particular case, we're calling our part of State of Play head-to-head. And since we don't hear as much from Majority Leader Senator Mitch McConnell, I just thought that it would probably be a good idea to literally play, everything that he had to say, because there is so much criticism, of the right in exactly what they are doing in terms of looking out for the common person and not just the rich corporations. I knew that, on, basically the closing bell, which is on CNBC, I knew that he would be presented with hard questions that he literally would have to answer. So I wanted to, at the very least, play out a more portion of that video so he would have an opportunity to explain what it is and what the position of the HEROS Act is. Now, this is the one thing that we do know, all right? The one thing that we do know is that whether it's HEROS, which is the Democrats, or whether it's HEROS, as far as it relates to what was presented by the Republicans, we do know that each one of those both have a $1,200 check in it. So again, understand this. Each one of those has a $1,200 check in. The only difference between the $1,200 check requirements, versus in CARES Act 1 is the fact that before, as an individual, you can make up to $99,000 or $198,000 as a couple, but that has come down in the HEROS Act, and that is $75,000 per individual and up to $150,000 for a married couple. Now, another big difference in the HEROS Act is that whether it's a dependent that's a child under 17 or over 17 or dependent period, there is stimulus money to be added, $500 per dependent. Now, they're not going to have a problem whether it's the House or whether it's the Senate. They're not going to have a problem, basically hashing that out. There are some problems though. So what are the problems? Okay, each side, Democrats, Republicans, they have a red line. They have a line that, it's non-negotiable. Although they're saying it's non-negotiable, I truly believe it is. For Mitch McConnell, as I played in the beginning, his red line is no bill will be presented and passed in the Senate to be sent to the president's desk to be signed unless it includes liability protection for businesses, for example, doctors, for universities, for schools, because his position is there is no way that we can try to boost the economy during a pandemic if a slew of lawsuits happen. And don't get me wrong, not being left or right, I completely understand. As a business owner, I 100% completely understand. Now, that same red line for him just happens to be something that's somewhat a non-negotiable item for the Democrats, where they're like, how can you give all of this protection to all these different businesses and not holding them accountable if someone gets sick? I mean, we're not even just talking about COVID, okay? We're talking about doctors in terms of being sued for malpractice. We're talking about for years to come, right? I believe the year is 2024. They cannot, if this passed, they cannot be sued, all right? So, in the face of all of that, the Democrats are saying, here's our non-negotiable. There's no way. There's no way we're going to agree to that. Plus, on top of that, what about all the people that are being evicted or soon to be evicted because the rent and mortgage moratorium ended last Thursday? What about that? How do we protect those? Well, fortunately, there is money in the bill. They're going to agree on that. In other words, there is money to be sent to actually hold off evictions. The one point of contention, which I believe based on what they want, is extending the unemployment boost. As I showed, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans are like, hey, look, we should not pay people more to stay home than to go to work. And as the interviewer on the closing bell brought up in the video, she says, wait a minute, that extra $600 per week actually brought spending around pre-pandemic level. So the Republicans do not want to extend the $600. They want to drop it down to $200, and the current administration wants it to be about 70%. However, in the Senate, Republicans cannot agree on whether it should be 200, whether it should be 70%. The Democrats want $600. In other words, they want it to stay the same, what it is right now, which, by the way, it ends it ends at the end of this month. In other words, it ends Friday. So the checks, the unemployment checks have literally already gone out. Okay, so come next week, we don't know what people are going to do. Come next week, we don't know what people are going to do in terms of evictions. But it just depends on whether or not they can get together, meaning the House and the Senate, and work this thing out. Now, my prediction is that they will, right? Well, why, AJ? Why are you predicting that they will? Well, the current administration wants to get reelected. The current administration, the only thing that the current administration is, just my opinion, has to run on is a strong economy. But if millions of people are evicted, out on the streets, and millions of people, the unemployment rate goes up, and millions of people cannot not only have enough money to pay rent, right, but don't have enough money to eat because of the 18 running week total of 52 million people being filing for jobless claims. I think it's like 30 plus million actually unemployed right now because many people have gone back to work. But when you have that, money has to go into this. So the right, meaning the Republicans and the current administration, knows that, right? You got to run on a strong economy because you can't run on on health. Not right now. All right, you can't run on that. In my opinion, okay, the Democrats cannot run on being anti-Trump. They cannot. And I know again that this is a startup junkie, and we're all about bringing business to you on a daily basis through live streams and videos, and helping the startup grow to scale. That's our thing. That's what we do. Helping existing businesses formulate strategies and processes to grow their business to scale. But hell, again, whether you're right or left, if there's no economy, or if the economy is in the dumps, business or doing business is going to be hard. Even for a company like ours who primarily does technology, right? So I'm saying to you that I believe that they're going to meet somewhere in the middle, probably around an extra $400 per week as a boost. However, because the current administration in the White House is pushing 70%, because they are on the 70% kick, 70% of the salary, okay, of the working salary. So if the current administration does not sign off on the bill once negotiation happens between the right and the left, in other words, between the Democrats and Republicans, but the current administration doesn't sign off on it, who knows where we're going to be. But the one thing that we do know is this. There is other things in this bill, and this is for all you business people out there, that talks about the EIDL loan. And the EIDL grant specifically, right? As many of you know, many of you could go to the SBA website who have a legitimate business. And again, I am talking about people with a legitimate business. I'm not talking about, apartments in all these different urban cities or people pretending that they have a business just to get the $10,000, right? There are Republicans that are pushing, and they have bipartisan support on this, all right? And this is a Republican idea, all right? For all my friends out there who say, AJ, you're always on the left. No, I'm right down the middle. I'm about business, all right? There are Republicans pushing that for all the people who did not get the grant and that applied, right? Maybe the money ran out, they stopped doing it, or maybe they only got, like, say if they had 2 employees, like when we got the grant, we only said 2, even though we got many other people working for us, literally in our company, and we literally could have used each one of those people to get $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. But I'm like, hey, these are independent contractors, so I'm just only going to take the main 2 people, and so we got money. That's right, we got money, but we also went through the loan process, the SBA loan process. But back to what the EIDL proposal is. And you know what that is? That is to give the full $10,000 grant without consideration and a SBA loan for anyone who has a business with a credit score 570 plus. All right? So no worries. I'm going to talk more about that, but not today. I'm going to definitely talk more about that in a few days, okay? Because there's so much stuff going on and it's changing on a daily basis, and I want to make sure that you all understand what's directly affecting you. And that's money for contact tracing, that's money for testing, there's money, going directly into your bank account, such as another stimulus check, and there's money to protect frontline workers, service workers, and there's money the money to protect evictions, people from evictions, and money to protect those who are furloughed and unemployed at this time. So that's what I'm going to stay on just for a little bit. All right. But do know that we're going to get deeper into the business portion. So in your opinion, who do you think has the strongest argument? Who has the strongest package? Is it the HEROS Act or is it the HEALS Act? Okay. Bar the similarities. Bar the $1,200. Another round of stimulus checks. Bar that. Who has the strongest in your opinion? I really want to get your opinion. You don't have to answer right now, but please drop your comments in the comment section. So later on, when we're going back through the comments, we can highlight your comment and share your opinion with the world. Now, speaking of business, all right? Many of you guys know that tonight is the How to Do Business in the Digital Economy live Zoom training. This training is unlike anything that you've experienced. This is not a webinar in which you show up and all you're going to do and all you're going to see, that is, are a bunch of slides. And at the end, they are going to try to sell you something. That's not what tonight is all about. What tonight is all about is live and interactive training, real business stuff, how to take a concept from a concept to an idea. Don't worry, there's no Amazon affiliation, there's no drop shipping, there's no affiliate marketing, there's no MLM, there's no Forex, there's none of that, okay? Only real business. And you're gonna have the benefit of working with me. And you might say, AJ, why is working with you a benefit? Well, let me just share some credentials with you. First and foremost, I've been an entrepreneur for more than 25 plus years. Yes, I've made tons of money and I've done millions and millions of dollars in sales, and I've lost it all and end up having to sleep in my car. But in my way, or on my way of starting over, I learned to educate myself and start to make more money off my mind and start to work smarter than harder and start to make money and people paying me for my intellect. And that includes universities asking me to develop course content for them as a subject matter expert. That also includes doing campaigns for such companies as Apple, Sony, Wrigley's, Arista, which they're no longer around. But the point is, you get the benefit of my experience. You get the benefit of everything that I've learned in corporate America and everything that I've learned as an entrepreneur. And you get the benefit of working with Fortune 500s. You get the benefit of me being on the board, the Global Business Advisory Board of a major university. Now, I've shared that in my feed before, and I showed an example of it, which I'll show another example of it tonight. It's all about ethos. You get the benefit of that. All right? So, if you have not registered for this live Zoom business training that's coming up tonight, please do so. Drop down in the body of this post and sign up. The thing about the sign up, we limited this to 25 seats because we wanted to be able to answer your questions and be live and interactive versus just showing you a bunch of slides. However, we built in the capacity to have 5 more people. All right? 5 more people. Why? Because sometimes people don't show up, and sometimes, because life happens, especially during the current environment. But I'm inviting you to sign up for it. So, drop down in the body of this post and register for tonight's webinar. Live Zoom business training, how to do business in a digital economy. We're going to cover everything from, taking your idea as a concept all the way to market. And there's a tool, a very special tool I'm going to share with everyone that shows up tonight. In fact, I'm going to give you that tool for free. Just show up. All right. So that's it. I appreciate everyone for checking out today's Startup Junkie. Be sure to check out the Startup Junkie live podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, as well as iHeartMedia. Thank you so very much for checking out the state of play today and the head-to-head between Senate Majority Leader. I want to keep saying Minority Leader. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, versus Chuck Schumer. All right? In the house. So I expect you to be in the house tonight. So with that said, everyone, I'm AJ, your host of the Startup Junkie. Be sure to check out the Startup Junkie live podcast streaming. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. And click that notification button so you will get every time we release something. Like, we literally have 100-something videos uploaded already, and we just started. All right. Help me reach that milestone of 100 subscribers on YouTube. I would really, really appreciate it. But if you haven't again, please sign up for tonight's webinar. Until tomorrow, everyone, I'm out. Take care.